In my personal opinion, every Texas politician who took legalized bribery from energy companies should be prosecuted criminally for negligent homicide for all the dozens of people down there that froze to death as a result of taking those bribes and then deregulating those companies that they took those bribes from. And here's why. 10 years ago, they were told they've got to insulate those pipes because there's going to be another, every 10 years there's a bad winter storm down there. Well, 10 years later, here's a bad winter storm. They didn't insulate those pipes. It would have costed them money, the energy companies. So when the storm came, obviously the pipes froze, and there's a bunch of other stuff going on too, but mainly the overarching point is they didn't spend the money. They didn't have to because they bought the politicians in Texas who accepted that conflict of interest and said, okay, you made me rich, you made me powerful, you made me, because of the money you gave me, I was able to buy my way into office and keep my way into office. So I'm going to deregulate you guys and do what you want so you don't have to put out that extra expense. And the result is, people are going to die. People are going to freeze to death. Some people are going to burn to death because they're trying to keep their houses warm through maybe a fireplace or, there's running the stove, and there's accidents. And that there was a grandmother and I think 2 boys or whatever that burned alive in their house because there was no other way for them to keep warm. So they were burning wood or something like that, and their house caught on fire and dead. So this is something that we have to come to terms with and stop voting for politicians who are on the take of these bribes. All of them, Trump, Biden, state, local officials, federal officials, over 90% of them, I'm guessing about over 90% of them are on the take of these bribes from companies that they're supposed to be regulating to protect us from harm from them. And this is a great example of that. But we have to do better as voters, nominating people that are not on the take so that we've got somebody we can vote for that's going to represent us rather than their corporate PACs. So they were told in Texas, look, if you don't take these safety measures, then the next storm, pipes are going to freeze, people are going to die. And they said, we don't care. We like our money, we like our power. These corporations, the energy companies specifically in Texas, they give us all this money so that we can do our campaigns and maintain power and enrich ourselves. So of course I'm not going to say no to that. The people of Texas, their lives are going to freeze to death. Who cares? I got all this bribery coming in. And shame on the media for not connecting those obvious dots. The number one donors for the governor of Texas and a lot of the state politicians in Texas comes from these energy companies. Their biggest donors. It isn't even the pharmaceutical industry or the credit card industry or the banking industry. Their biggest donors are actually the fossil fuel industry and the energy industry of Texas. So there you go. That's why we need to get the private money out of our public politics, 100%, because this is the result of that. And it's not just, Texas is a great example, so we can focus on that right now, but this happens throughout the entire country. That's why Congress is never popular. Our presidents, they have their honeymoon phases, but ultimately they're not very popular either. It's because we apparently as a people have not become smart enough yet to stop nominating and voting for people who take this legalized bribery. So I hope that sentiment catches on so we stop doing that. The media has a role to play, but they're not playing that role. They're not doing a good job connecting those dots, and that's because they're part of the same circle jerk of the powerful corrupting influences of big money in politics. A lot of those corporations that run the media outlets, especially the big ones, they're part of that same game. So I'm guessing that's why they don't do a good job of pointing that out and educating their audience. But what's going on in Texas right now, man, it is those are the easiest dots in the world to connect. It's so simple. Big companies who control the energy systems in Texas, the power grids, the heat sources so people don't freeze to death during a winter storm, those big private for-profit corporations don't want to spend money, extra added costs to maintain safety within their equipment. So their solution, turns out if you're a billionaire, the smartest investment you can make is to buy a politician, and those politicians take that money And in turn, they do their bidding. In this case, they deregulate and say you don't have to spend extra money insulating those pipes or taking other safety measures. We're well aware that people are going to die as a result of that, and we don't care because of this power structure. It's for us, not them. So maybe the state of Texas, every person in Texas can file maybe the biggest class action suit we've ever seen and sue the living daylights out of all those leaders who have taken money from these energy companies to do their bidding for them. And while we're at it, how about just everybody in the entire country forms a massive class action suit against every politician? I guess we'd lose about 90% of Congress and our president. I'd be okay with that. Replace them all, man. Replace them all with people who don't have that conflict of interest. That would be wonderful to have a government 100% made up of politicians that do not take any private money or corporate PAC money especially. And then we can have a government that represents us. And even if we have a disagreement, at least it's an honest one. And we don't have that. So we need to become a little bit smarter, my fellow citizens. We need to become a little bit smarter and stop nominating and voting for politicians who are on the take of this money. Never again vote for another Trump or another Biden or another Clinton or another Bush or another any of these people. They don't represent us. They represent their billionaire donors. That's a point of fact. And people die as a result of it needlessly.